Why did my spray tan artist start laughing when she saw me naked? She tried to hold it in. She put her hand over her mouth. She turned away. She said, "I'm sorry, I need a minute." Then she left the room. I was standing in a spray tan booth in a paper thong and disposable hair cap, listening to a woman laugh so hard through the door that another client asked, "Is everything okay in there?" Nothing was okay. I was about to find out that my body had been a community art project for approximately 3 weeks, and I was the only person in my household who didn't know. I am a nurse. I work 3 overnight shifts a week. I come home at 7:15 a.m. My husband Jake leaves at 7:30, and our 4-year-old son Otis is awake by 7:45. In those 15 minutes, I change, kiss Jake goodbye, collapse face down on the couch, and fall asleep with the speed and grace of a woman whose body has been vertical for 12 hours and is no longer accepting requests. For approximately 75 minutes every weekday, I am asleep on the couch, and Otis is awake and unsupervised, and apparently making excellent use of the time. The spray tan was for my sister Kelly's wedding. My skin tone can best be described as medical professional beige, the kind of pale that happens when your primary light source is fluorescent, and your primary vitamin D source is the parking lot between your car and the hospital. The artist Candace walked in with her spray gun. She looked at me. She looked at my back. She put her hand over her mouth. She left. When she came back, she turned me toward the full-length mirror. My back, from my shoulder blades to my waist, was covered in washable marker, a full mural, in every color Crayola makes. There was a house, green, with a triangle roof and a chimney that had smoke coming out of it in a spiral pattern that suggested either a cozy fireplace or a structural fire depending on your interpretation of 4-year-old art. There were flowers, 7 of them, each a different color, each with a smiling face because Otis believes all living things have faces including flowers, the moon, and our washing machine, which he calls Gerald. There was a sun in the upper right quadrant of my back. It had sunglasses. There was a cat sitting next to the house. We do not own a cat. Otis wants a cat. He has been asking since January. Apparently he gave himself one. On my spine, there were 4 stick figures in a row. 1 tall, 1 medium, 1 small, and 1 the size of a grain of rice. I said, "Who's the tiny one?" Candace zoomed in. She said, "I think it has whiskers." The tiny stick figure was the cat, standing in the family lineup. Equal height designation as a full family member. Otis had integrated the fictional cat into the household portrait and placed it on my lumbar vertebrae. Across my lower back, in letters that were backward because he was writing from behind me while I was face down, was the word mom. Backward it read mom anyway, because mom is a palindrome and my son accidentally chose the one word in the English language that works in both directions, and I do not know if that is luck or genius, but either way it is permanent marker on the small of my back, and I have my sister's wedding in 4 days. Candace said, "Some of these layers are older than others. The house has been drawn over at least 3 times. The sun has been refreshed. He's been maintaining this. Maintaining. My 4-year-old has been maintaining a mural on my back the way a museum maintains a collection. Each morning while I sleep face down, he takes his markers and works on me like a canvas that holds still and breathes slowly and never tells him to stop because I am unconscious and my back is his. And the 75 minutes before my mother Jayla arrives is his exhibition window. I called Jake. I said, "Did you know our son has been drawing on my back while I sleep?" Silence. Then Jake said, "I thought you knew." I said, "How would I know? I am asleep and it is on my back." He said, "He told me last week." He said, "I'm making mommy pretty for Aunt Kelly's wedding. I thought you two had a thing." A thing. My husband thought I was lying face down every morning letting a 4-year-old decorate me with washable marker as a shared bonding activity, and he did not question it because in this household nothing is strange anymore. Candace spent 40 minutes removing the marker. She only laughed 3 more times, once at the cat, once at the backward mom, and once at a detail I had missed. Behind the house, partially hidden by a flower, Otis had drawn a very small door, a door on my back, on the house that lives on my body. He drew a way in. I drove home. Otis said, "Mommy, you're a different color." I said, "I got a spray tan for Aunt Kelly's wedding." He said, "But I already made you pretty." I said, "The marker had to come off, baby." His face fell. Not tantrum fell. Grief fell. The face of a 4-year-old artist whose gallery has been whitewashed without notice. He said, "Even the cat?" I said, "Even the cat." He said, "I worked really hard on the cat." I said, "After the wedding, you can draw it all again." He said, "Can I add a dog this time?" I said, "You can add whatever you want." He said, "And a pool." I said, "Where would the pool go?" He evaluated my torso the way a contractor evaluates a lot. He said, "Your tummy." He has blueprints. The next phase of development includes a pool on my stomach and a dog next to a cat we do not own on my spine. Sunday morning after the wedding, I lay face down on the couch. At 7:47 I heard him. Small feet. The marker box opening. A cap coming off. The first line on my back. He started with the house. Same spot, same triangle roof. I lay still. I felt the marker move in strokes that were slow and careful and intentional in the way that only a child's hand is intentional, because a child drawing on his mother's back at 7:47 a.m. is not making art. He is making a home. On the only surface in his world that is warm and breathing and always comes back from the hospital and always stays still long enough for him to finish. Candace texted me that afternoon. She said, "He's drawing again?" I said, "There's a pool on my stomach and a dog on my hip and the cat now has a hat." She said, "In 9 years of spray tanning, I've seen a lot of bodies. Yours is the only one that came in already decorated by someone who loves you. Most people come in wanting to look different. Your son already thought you looked finished." That evening, everything changed. My mother Jayla called. Her voice was tight. She said, "Otis had marker all over his hands this morning. He told me he was drawing on you." I laughed. I started to explain. The mural, the cat, the backward mom, Candace's reaction. She did not laugh. She said, "So you're telling me you're asleep and he's doing whatever he wants for over an hour? With markers near his face? What if he drew on his eyes? What if he put a cap in his mouth?" I told her the markers are washable, non-toxic, made for kids. She said, "That's not the point. The point is you're unconscious and he's 4. I said, "He has a routine. He eats breakfast. He watches his show. He draws. 75 minutes. She said, 75 minutes is enough time for a 4-year-old to pull a chair to the stove, to open the front door, to climb on the counter and reach the knife block. I said, "He's fine. He's always been fine." She said, "He's been fine so far." That's not the same thing. She was right. Those are 2 different sentences. He's fine is a fact. He's been fine so far bar is a countdown. Jayla said, I'm going to think about what needs to change. Not what we could do. What needs to change. Like the verdict was already in. I drove to the hospital, and the whole way I could not stop picturing Otis pulling a chair across the floor, reaching for stove knobs, the front door, the knife block. Every room in my house turning into a list of ways my son could get hurt while I was 10 feet away with my eyes closed. My sister Kelly called the next day. She said, Mom called me. She's really upset about the Otis thing. Honestly, I told her she had a point. I said, Kelly, you saw the mural picture. You laughed. You said it was the cutest thing you'd ever seen. She said, it is cute, but Mom's not wrong that a 4-year-old shouldn't be alone for that long. My mother and my sister had formed a team, and I was on the other side of it, and the mural was not art anymore. It was a 75-minute window of failure. Tuesday morning, I lay face down on the couch. At 7:47, Otis began drawing. The house first, always the house. Then at 8:15, the front door opened. Jayla was not supposed to be here until 9. She was 45 minutes early, and she did not call first. She came because she wanted to see it. She walked into the living room. The silence lasted 3 seconds before she said, This is exactly what I'm talking about. After she sent Otis to wash his hands, she said, You told me he draws on you. You didn't tell me you lie there and let him do it. You're encouraging it. I said, It's marker on skin. He's creating something. She said, He's unsupervised. That's the word you keep dancing around. I picked up my phone. I pulled up the photo Candace had taken. The full mural. The house, the flowers, the sun with sunglasses, the cat, the 4 stick figures. I turned the screen toward her. I said, Look at the detail. He put the cat in the family portrait. He's not in danger. He's making art. Jayla looked at the photo for a long time. She zoomed in. Her face did not soften. She handed the phone back. She said, It's beautiful. And it happened because nobody was watching him. Those 2 things are both true. I did not have an answer, because she was right. Both things were true. The mural was beautiful, and it happened because I was asleep. You can hold both of those facts, and they do not cancel each other out. They just sit there, making everything more complicated. Wednesday morning, Jayla arrived at exactly 9. She set a manila folder on the counter next to the fruit bowl. She did not say anything about it. Inside were 3 pages, a schedule for a morning nanny service, a price list with the 7 to 9 row highlighted, and a handwritten note in Jayla's neat cursive. I love you. I love Otis. But I can't keep arriving at 9 knowing he's been alone since 7:30. If you won't make a change, I will. I'll start coming at 7:30 every morning, or you hire someone. But the way things are isn't working for me anymore. She was offering to wake up at 6 o'clock and drive across town before sunrise 3 days a week, or I hire a stranger. Those were the choices. There was no option where things stayed the way they were. Jake said, She's offering to come earlier. That's not a threat. That's your mom giving up her morning because she's scared. I said, She's not scared. She's controlling. He said, Is there a difference? Because the 75 minutes has always made me a little nervous too. I just didn't say anything because you seemed okay with it. 3 people who love me. 3 people who know me. They all landed in the same place, and that place was not where I was standing. I sat at the table and I let every hypothetical fill the room. The chair being pulled across the floor, the knife block, the front door, me face down, 10 feet away, eyes closed. For 1 full hour, I believed them. I believed the couch was a mistake. I believed the mornings were a risk. I believed the mural was an accident that had not turned into an emergency yet. Then Otis walked in. He was holding a piece of paper. He walked up to me with that half walk, half bounce because he is 4, and his body has not learned to move without joy yet. He said, I made you a copy, so you can see it when you're at the hospital. It was the mural. All of it. The house with the triangle roof, the flowers with faces, the sun with sunglasses, the cat with a hat, the dog next to the cat, the pool, round and blue, where my stomach would be. And at the bottom, in big backward letters that read the same both directions, Mom, he said, the one on your back is for when you're sleeping. This one is for when you're awake. Something broke open inside me. Not breaking down. Breaking through. Otis is fine. Otis is safe. He did not draw this because he was bored or because nobody was watching. He drew this because he wanted me to have it at work. He thought about me being at the hospital, away from the couch and the mural, and he solved the problem with markers and paper and love so big it does not fit on one surface. I am not negligent. I am a nurse who works 12-hour overnight shifts and comes home and gives her son the thing he wants most, which is me. Not awake me, not supervising me, just me. Present, warm, breathing, still. He does not need me to be conscious for that to count. He just needs me to be there. I called Jayla. I said, come over, now. She was there in 20 minutes. I sat her down at the table with the folder on one side and Otis's drawing on the other. I said, I sleep on the couch because if I go to the bedroom, Otis can't find me and he gets scared. I sleep face down because it's the only way my back stops hurting after 12 hours. I don't set an alarm because if I get less than 4 hours of sleep, I make mistakes at work, and when I make mistakes at work, people can get hurt. I said, he's not unsupervised. He's making me art. Every single morning he could do anything in this house and he chooses to sit with his mom and draw. I said, do you know how many years that lasts? How many mornings until he stops wanting to be near me? I'm not going to hire a stranger to sit between me and my son during the only quiet time we have together because you and Kelly decided the markers are the problem. I put Otis's copy on the table between us. Jayla picked it up. She held it close. She looked at the stick figures. And then she said, which one is me? Her finger was shaking. She pointed at the 4 figures. She said, there are 4. You, Jake, Otis, and the cat. There's no grandmother. Her voice broke on the word grandmother. She said, I come every single day. I have been here every day since you went back to work, and I'm not in the picture. And I understood. This was never just about safety. Not entirely. Jayla shows up at 9 every morning. By 9, the drawing is done. The markers are put away. The magic part. The quiet part. The part where Otis chooses to sit with someone and make something beautiful. That part is finished before she walks through the door. She gets the handoff, the logistics, the lunch, the park, the books. She gets the work of loving him, but she does not get the art of it. She does not get to be the warm surface he chooses. She does not get the mural. I took her hands. I unfolded those neat folded fingers. I said, Mom, you are in the picture. You're the reason I can sleep at all. You're the reason I can work those shifts and know that when I close my eyes, someone I trust completely is coming at 9. You're not on my back because you're the reason my back can hit that couch in the first place. I said, and the pool is going on my stomach. There's plenty of room for a grandmother in the expansion plan. Jayla cried. cried, the quiet kind, tears falling with her mouth closed, the kind of crying that belongs to a woman who has spent 60-something years trying to be needed and just found out she has been needed all along, just in a way nobody thought to draw a picture of. That weekend I came home from my shift. I changed. I lay face down on the couch. At 7:47 I heard him. Small feet, marker box opening, cap coming off, the house first, always the house. Then at 8:15 the front door opened. I did not move. Jayla walked in quietly. She did not say a word. I felt her sit down on the floor next to Otis. He said, "You can do the flowers, Grandma, but don't mess up the cat. I just fixed his hat." I heard the marker change hands. Then I felt it. A new line on my right shoulder blade. Slower than Otis's lines. Less steady. The line wobbled. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever felt on my skin. 3 generations in a living room at 8 in the morning. One drawing, one sleeping, one finally being let into the picture.